recording, and I'm going to share my screen. So this session is on using Google Assignments tool. And one of the reasons some people have been using Google Classroom is because they really like the assignment tool. And for the last couple years, that has been migrated to an LTI connection so that you can now use Google Assignments directly within Blackboard. That integration was set up actually in the fall, and it hadn't been used that much, so we wanted to do a workshop on it to help. We actually heard about it mostly when we did a podcast with Kathleen Gradle, who talked about the tool and how they've been using it at Fredonia. So what I'd like you to do actually is to either log into your own class and try working along with this just to show how it's done. And then shortly after that, go into the CELT account, and we'll try that. But go into Blackboard, go into an empty course shell or an old course shell you're not using, and just work along with it. But in doing that, open Firefox. There's an interesting bug that we ran into when we first tried using this. I tried it, unfortunately, trying to do it live in class because I wanted to make it available right in the middle of my class period, and it didn't work. And I got a little bit annoyed by that. But for now, this will be fixed. Actually, it was fixed last year with an update in Blackboard, but we have not yet installed at SUNY that release of Blackboard. That will be installed in August. So this is only on the instructor side that there's an issue. That as of now, in order to create the assignment in Blackboard, and only at the stage of creating the assignment in Blackboard, you have to be using Firefox. Apparently, Google has a problem communicating with the Chrome browser through the integration. that has been resolved, and the fix will be put in when we update our Blackboard instance along with the rest of SUNY in August before the start of the semester. So what you do is you go to your course. I'm using the CELT thing just to show how it's created. I created a folder in here just for this workshop with very little in it right now. And this is a Google assignment workshop. And what you do to create an assignment is you have your document or your file or whatever it is in Google Drive. It could be a Google Doc, it could be a spreadsheet, it could be a slideshow, it could be anything that you store in Google Drive, okay? And what you do is you go into the Build Content menu, you scroll down to the Google Assignment, and notice, by the way, there's also a Google Drive file embed tool, which will also let you embed files from Google Drive directly in as content in your course. But choose a Google assignment tool. And once you've done that, it launches the LTI connection. You have to give it a connection to the Google Drive account that you have your file stored in, and just click on link or switch account if you need to connect to your college account. It doesn't matter which account it is, but I believe it may require that you use your Google account connected to Google Apps, because this is part of the Google Apps for Education suite. And just click link. And I just stuck 2 files in here. One was actually an assignment I had used with my class, and I'll create it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put in a due date, and I'm going to make the due date, I'll just jump ahead actually to July here, okay? At midnight on whatever July 21st happens to be. So that's done. And you can change the number of points, although I think it resets to 100. That may be fixed later, but it doesn't really matter because you can always use weights when you compute your grade later. So I'm just going to leave it at default. And this is, let's say this is going to be an exit ticket assignment. And let's say this is for 6-3, okay? And then it said the instructions will be complete this exit ticket. and submit. So this would be done at the end of a class period, for example. Could be anything, and I'll put in another one in just a second. You have the ability to create a rubric that will be associated with the assignment that you can then use to grade it. I'm not going to do that here. You can also do a plagiarism check to check for using a Google search to check for any plagiarism, and then you attach whatever the file it is that you want to share with students. And in my Google Drive, I just created a folder. Oh, geez. This is a really tiny screen. Normally I have this on my big screen, but that's not the screen I'm sharing. So I think this must be the exit ticket, I'm hoping, because it was created today. And so sorry about that. And so you attach that to it, and each student will get a copy. And then I'm going to click create, and it has now created the assignment. It has now created the assignment right there. And there was just a little lag in the response time. And there it is. There's the exit ticket assignment, which would now be available to anyone who has access to the course, anyone in that course. Okay, I'm going to do one more just to give you an example of one way I used it. So I'm going to go back and create a, and I hope that's really an exit ticket and not like not something else that I didn't intend to share, but we'll see. I'm going to do one more Google assignment, and this was just a sample econometrics assignment I used. I think this was called assignment 11. And there was a little bit of lag there. Complete and submit. This was something actually I used with a group activity in my class. And I see there's something in chat. I'll get to that in just a second. Let me attach it. And I think this must be it. And I will add that. And I'm not going to do anything else there, and so forth. So that's all there is to it. And the way this works basically is each student will get their own unique copy of this. They can then fill it out, complete the document, and then there's going to be a submit button on it, which will transfer the read and write access back from the student to you. It will show up in your gradebook as something to be graded in Blackboard. You then grade it using a rubric if you created a rubric for it. And then you can then go back and once you grade it, you can release it to the students and they get to see the graded work. And it's that easy. It's basically creating a Drive file, sharing it with your students. Blackboard and Google together automatically does all the sharing and permissions for you. So you don't have to worry about setting the document to be shareable with students or anything else. And you don't have to worry about students sharing things back to you. It all comes right back as an assignment that then is in the gradebook as something to be graded. And that's it. Now, let me see what the chat things were. So what I was going to do, so I just put in two simple questions there. And the other one was actually an economist. So Casey, would you like to show, or would one of you like to share your screen just to show what it looks like? You can go into the CELT group and then go to the, switch over to the CELT group and go to the Google assignment workshop, and the assignment should be there. Because I don't know if I would have, it may be confusing in terms of permissions if I tried to submit it for that.
Right. John, I can't share. You need to update your share.
Now you can.
Okay.
Sorry.
So I already submitted it, but then this is what I got. So it took me to a place where I could just open this exit ticket document. I typed in a couple things and then click the submit button. I guess what happens if I unsubmit?
Okay, there you go.
So yeah, this is where I ended up. And so this is the Google document that's linked to it. I just typed in a couple answers and hit submit. And so now I'm a little curious what it shows up, how it shows up on the instructor side.
Okay, so I'm not entirely sure where this is a community group, so that's why I was a little hesitant to try it too from there. But let me see. I'm going to share my screen again, and because I don't think we've ever had any gradable items from the on the instructor side. So let me see. There is a grade center here, and under needs grading, there are 0 items to grade. But if I go to the, I hate to go to this grade book because uses with your role.
John,
oh,
do it without sharing to see what you see.
no, that was not
Oh.
the issue. This is where we had all the attendance records back when we had a grad student keeping up with that, and when we were doing the badges. So it's a huge grade book. My recollection from when I've used this is that it creates a grade book column that you then grade, and it just takes you into the document, and you can, the rubric is associated with it. And this should be the very last item here. And here it is. But there are 1,300 people here. But if I sort by submissions, we'll put it at the top. Okay, so I have to scroll down to Casey, and it should be. See, the problem is I don't have the ability to put you in another class, so it should be right here somewhere.
But it's not showing up as submitted.
It's not showing up as, oh, did you resubmit it?
I did.
Well, I may be wrong then. The other place where it may be, because I haven't done this in a couple months and I should have checked this. The other place it may be is if I go back to the content, it may be that you grade it right from the assignment itself. And I think I may have messed up on that. Sorry about that. So if I go to the exit ticket assignment, it's now connecting you back to Google with that aspect of it. And here it is. So I'm going to go in, look at Casey's work. It would, yeah. So you do it right from the assignment itself, not in the gradebook. It releases the grade to the gradebook, but that's not where you view it. Sorry about that. So I'm going to view it in a Google Docs window, and I am going to, where did that Docs window go? Here it is. Okay, and I'm going to give Casey 100. Actually, I'll give him 105 for sharing that. Oh, it's not going to let me. Okay, you just get 100. And you can provide feedback. You could write right in the document because you are now in Google Drive, but it's transparent. So you can use any of the Google Drive tools. You can use a markup. You can use, highlight. You can put in comments, however you'd like to do it. You could add overall feedback that goes into the Blackboard gradebook column, or you could embed it right in the document, and then you just return it, and it will now go back right to you. And this can also be used iteratively. So if you want to have revisions, you can send work back to your student, they can resubmit it, and then you can update the grade and send it back. One of the use cases they were working with at Fredonia was having students create a semester-long blog, essentially. A reflection log throughout the semester, where each week they'd add more to it and they'd increase the point value of the assignment as it progressed, so that in the second week it would be worth twice as much as it had been up to that point. So they had cumulative work that was building that way. But you can basically just have students submit it, resubmit it, and so on. And it works pretty well. The only restriction is the instructor to create the assignment, not to grade it, but to create the assignment and put it in Blackboard, has to be using Firefox until late August this year. So,
John, does it make a folder in Google Drive of the assignments that you've collected? So like, is Casey's assignment somehow in your Google Drive as well?
That's a good question. I can go over to the Drive file, and I think it hides it somewhere. It's not this. Well, it hasn't created it here. So I think it's doing that transparently somewhere in the background and somewhere on the Google servers. I don't know where the actual assignments are stored when or the copies of the assignment are stored. Otherwise, I mean, the students, maybe
I
it's
can-
stored in the student's account, but the permission changes. That would
You
be
want me
my
to
guess.
share?
Yes,
John,
actually. So yeah, what does it look for like from the student side?
So I can see I've got, excuse me, multiple copies of it, but I have a folder here now, assignments that I didn't have before.
Okay.
And when I open that folder, I've got one for CELT, which would be the Blackboard shell. And then,
So the students get to keep them, and it would be archived by class. So students would have a
Sweet.
record of all the assignments they've done in every course that uses this over the course of their career here. That's actually kind of nice.
so that's how it looks on that sort of student side.
And it all shows up in the gradebook with the score automatically. And you know, it's really easy to use. The only little bug is the connection to you know, is that connection to the problem with Blackboard and Google not communicating with each other when you're using Chrome. So
The other key thing is like if you want to use rubrics or anything for grading, they need to all be created in the Google system because you're using the Google grade
right.
system as opposed to Blackboard's grade system, right?
John,
But-
do we know if this interface works with other
It was
LMSs?
originally developed for Canvas. It's an LTI integration though, so any system that supports LTI integration should work. We're not supposed to say that we'll be moving to Desire to Learn, but it does work with Desire to Learn currently. And in fact, the bug only affects, the current bug only affects Blackboard. It does not affect Desire to Learn or Canvas or Sakai or Moodle. So any other questions or thoughts?
So John, do you have a folder called assignments somewhere?
I do not. Let me see.
I would guess not, Rebecca, because I think it's all in effect residing, actually, let me look for something, residing in the student's account with share access.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
could just see like an advantage of being able to download a set of student work, right? Because if it's totally in the student account, then they can delete it and things. So for like accreditation purposes where you need to have samples of work and stuff, I wonder if that might create issues. That's the only reason why I'm asking.
Well, the instructor, that's a good question. Can students delete it and can instructors? I'm looking at my account and I do have a folder called assignments, and yes, so it is shared. I can bring that over. Let me share it. That was a good question. I didn't see it because I've got so many A's in my file system that I didn't quite get down far enough. But
And if we didn't know what the folder was called, how were you supposed to find it?
well, assignments would be a logical name, but I've got probably 40 or 50 folders that begin with the letter A. So yes, here's the exit ticket assignment right here under CELT. And again, it creates it by course. So here is where this was actually a demo I used to test it myself. And this is where I did it in my econometrics class. There were 2 assignments in there. And I can go in and let me look at the CELT one. Let's make sure I can view everything there. And yes, there are all the submissions. So it must make a copy of it and probably preserves that copy independently for the reasons. And in fact, this gives you each iteration. So you can see the original and the resubmitted work. So the instructor does get a copy of that.
It doesn't look like a copy though, because the owner is still Casey. Right? It's just like a shortcut to it.
And one of them just disappeared, which
Casey
suggests that
deleted them.
Casey deleted it. Huh, interesting.
Yeah. So I
it
just
is
deleted all
shared.
my submissions to see what happens on your side. So if you refresh your screen, John, what happens to that?
So so they all go away except for that copy. I don't know why that copy didn't,
Are
but
Casey's answers in that copy?
Yes,
They
they
are.
are.
Weird.
But my guess is that's just a delay in processing. So yes, it's possible that students could erase their work, but
No,
again,
John, that's yours. You own it. So
oh,
it makes a copy of each student's submission and makes you the owner so that I can't remove it as the student.
but you had two submissions. Maybe it only keeps the last one as a copy.
That would be my guess.
I think the other ones were like when he unsubmitted and resubmitted, right?
Oh,
So those
okay.
aren't the official version.
The official final version. Yeah.
No, I bet the copy's created when you graded it.
Oh, I bet you're right.
Oh,
That makes
that's
sense.
probably it. So it would create a copy of the graded one, which is what you'd want the archive of anyway, because that's the record that you have of the grading.
Right.
So-
I'm looking at the timestamps. So that was my clue.
Yes, because that was just a little bit later.
Well, thank you for figuring this out for me, because this was
Yes.
a key thing I needed to know to be able, because I was looking into it and I was the one that initially had the trouble with the Google Chrome, and I couldn't make assignments when I tried to use it.
Well, actually, I think I also initially had
Yeah,
it too.
we both tried it. Yeah.
And I was
do
in the
it.
middle of class when I discovered it didn't work, which was really frustrating. So I had to just share it with them directly and have them drop it back. So, okay, so that's all there is. But you can do this with any type of file that you can store in Google Drive, and that makes it really, really powerful.
So the last question, of course, is when we start having restrictions on how much data we can store in Google Drive, and depending on the kind of work students are doing, like how does that impact both students and the faculty for those assignments?
I have a question.
Yes,
We have unlimited storage, right?
we do.
That was always the
until
agreement, right?
June, we do until June of 2022. And that is an issue that the campus will have to address, because right now we are close to the capacity that will be binding as of next year, which means we're going to have to do something. Either the campus is going to have to pay for more than what Google is providing for free, or there's going to have to be some capacity limits. And as someone with many terabytes of files stored in various Google accounts, many of them my college accounts, that is of concern. Yes.
Sorry,
But-
I didn't mean to jump on you, Rebecca, with your question. I was just like, what limits to storage? I didn't know that we were
For the
about
next
to
year,
lose
that
our
was
unlimited
Google-
storage.
Google announced that about 2 months ago, and it's an issue that every Google campus is going to have to address. So
Surprise!
Sorry, Rebecca.
we've had a lot of videos, and some of them would probably, well, we'll have to see what happens, but I
So,
like having
John-
the backups.
Yeah, John, is there a similar LTI kind of thing with Office 365?
Not that I know of. There may be, but I work with a lot of people at Google at Microsoft campuses, and I have not seen that. But I wouldn't be in their LMS system, so there may be some type of connection. I'm just not sure. It's possible.
I was just thinking if the campus does go down the 365 license standpoint,
Oh.
every user would end up with a terabyte of OneDrive space.
We already have that.
Well, that's true,
actually.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's correct. We already do, but that's a whole nother storage space that if it
That
worked the same
is
way.
mostly untapped. Yeah, that's a good point. So we do have other options for storage. Okay, well, I guess we should stop the session, and thanks for figuring out all the things I hadn't gotten to yet. But again, it looks like this is going to be really easy and convenient, especially for those people who are already using this in a different LMS. Okay, I'll stop the recording.